All right, everyone. So this is being simultaneously broadcast on YouTube, which means if you miss a portion of it, or if you're seeing this later, you can always go back on YouTube and get the full review. We will have that for every single one of our exit strategy realty agents as well. So of course, we will be out there in the open with everybody, showing you what we are learning as we speak. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen here in just a moment as well. And thank you guys for being here and for muting yourselves so quickly. That's awesome. So we have had a considerable number of people messaging me today, asking me about, well, is this going to be recorded? What is this session going to entail? Because there's quite a bit of interest in what we're talking about this evening. So what are we here for? Well, Exit Strategy Realty has a lot of us that are consumer focused, but also investors ourselves. Historically, we have been a investor focused brokerage as well as for traditional buyers or sellers. And we're always trying to encourage our clients to invest in real estate, not just for their clients, but for themselves. And so we want to always make sure that as we go about our business, that we're looking at every single opportunity out there. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Nick Liebert with Exit Strategy Realty, founder of this brokerage, and I've been in the industry for 24 years. I am what they call an accredited investor, which doesn't mean much. It just means that I've been around the investing world and I've done a good volume of it over the years, sometimes to great effect and other times with some big losses. So my job for my own real estate agents, and for those of you in the audience that are listening tonight and watching this later, is to make sure that all of our agents and all of you out there have the proper education on what's going on in the market, that we have some foresight and advance warning of good things and bad things both, and also that you learn from, quite frankly, my mistakes and the mistakes of others that are willing to mastermind with us. And that's the beauty of what we've been trying to build here at our brokerage, our office, for the last, oh my gosh, almost 12 years now. At the end of October, it'll be 12 years that we've been in business together, a lot of us. And so in that time, a lot of great changes gone on in the market. We saw the Great Recession and huge amount of real estate wealth lost, sadly, but also some real estate wealth gained by some folks. I watched a lot of people, my clients, that had made some smart money moves in the mid to late 2000s, the aughts, I guess they call it. They were able to buy a lot of property during the real estate market Great Recession. And what we found was that those people that were smart with their money prior to that Great Recession, what then happened was that they were able to make some big money moves, some really game-changing and generational wealth building experiences for themselves and their family. I was not one of those smart folks that saved up a lot of money before the Great Recession. As a real estate agent, I had made some dumb moves, really got in over my head on some things, and I learned a lot from that. I did make one good real estate investment, and that was what's still the roof over my head, my home. I bought it as a foreclosure. I literally stalked it since it was a short sale. And so sometimes my lesson from that was the best real estate money doesn't come easy. The best deals don't come immediately. And so you have to kind of start early to watch. And so what I've been watching, one of the pieces of the market I've been watching since the beginning of the pandemic has been parking spaces. Now, when I first announced this to our office, it wasn't a training that anyone requested. It was one that I came up with. And people were like, what? That's not very sexy. You know, my clients don't want to hear about parking spaces. And I thought, well, do they not? It's kind of like some of the other real estate investments I've been involved with and been the broker on over the years, including tanning salons and parking garages at some points, vacant lots, mobile home parks. I've been all over this business and seen people make and lose great amounts of money. So when I see a shift in the market, I want to share it with our agents and share it with you. And we've been seeing the shift in the parking space market for quite some time. So why are we here tonight? I want to share with you what we know and where we feel this could go, and potentially, because I like things to rhyme sometimes, where you could grow from it. So why parking space is an investment. Let's start kind of why we're even here is there are so many different ways to make money in real estate, but there's also so many different ways to lose money. I like parking space as an investment for a few reasons. Number one, low cost of acquisition. So I think this is part of the reason why you don't see tons of trainings out there and these get rich quick scheme coaches trying to take your money and run with it.
Come over here, Jacob.
I'm so sorry. Could you mute yourself, whoever that is? Thank you. Let me help you mute yourself. Thank you. I think they caught themselves. So this whole point of you can get rich quick by listening to some DVDs, or now it's downloads and all that stuff. Watch what you spend with people. We here at Exit Strategy believe that you don't need to spend money on a coach. You should be with your Exit Realty agent coachable, and we're going to give you the tools to get there. One of the things why I like parking spaces so much is you can buy them at a fraction of the cost of some of these other real estate investments out there. So $5,000 to $20,000 per parking space is my goal for you. That depends widely on, is it in a garage? Is it part of an association? What neighborhood is it in? What demand for real estate in terms of even such thing as a parking space is out there, what that demand is. But I'm seeing parking spaces go for significantly less than they were prior to the pandemic. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. I am going to have a pro forma, what is called a pro forma for you this evening. Your Exit Realty agent will have that for you available after this. And if you're getting the link later, just reach out to your agent. So what I love in addition to the low cost of acquisition is that there's low maintenance and repair costs to a parking space. And what I mean by that is, think of it this way, there's little to no utility bills, there's no damages most of the time. They've really got to be an interesting tenant to damage a parking space, right? There's not a lot of upgrades to do to keep with the market. So as a buy and hold investor, some of the things that I've done wrong is that I had a lot of properties that needed a ton of maintenance work. I hadn't always budgeted for that on the way in. I think I was a little bit of what my mom used to call Mr. Acquire, where I love to buy things, but I really didn't always do the math. We want to make sure you guys avoid that on the way in. With a parking space, there's not quite as much that can go wrong. Obviously, things can still go wrong. We never want to sugarcoat that. But the odds of you having a hostile tenant, a tenant that you have to evict, well, think of it this way. Ease of mitigating tenant issues. Guys, I'm so sorry. Could you please mute yourself? Thank you. In a lot of municipalities, you just tow the car. Now, you want to always check with your attorney and check with your local rules and regulations, but it is not the same as evicting a tenant that is a human being that is damaging the property or that is in a, some sort of dispute with you. There's a lot less mitigation of tenant issues. Also, financing on a parking space. You can do a personal loan, a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, cash advance on a credit card. Now, that's pretty risky to me. Track your interest rates, but I do know there are some clients of mine that have bought a parking space with a cash advance on a credit card that has a 12 or 18 month initial 0.0% interest rate. And then they were able to refinance or just literally pay for that through a bonus or some other way later on, but they were able to not have to do a bank loan for the parking space. Now, if you get into a bigger deal where you're going to buy multiple parking spaces at once, some of you that are on with us tonight are from our office and our Office Investors Club. We are doing a scavenger sale. We have a parking garage that we are in the process of purchasing and moving through that scavenger sale process. That's a really tough process, and a parking garage isn't normally what you find there. But we, in our process of doing that, we were looking at all the different ways you can finance a parking garage. And guess what? A bank will be able to finance a block of parking spaces for you if you have good credit with that bank or you've built up a reputation with them. That's something to talk about with your bank. That is not normally something that a traditional mortgage lender is going to look to do unless it's a whole structure of a building. But you can buy parking spaces in a block, and a lot of times a bank will look at that as a investment piece, like some other businesses they would loan money on. But a lot of us, what we're doing when we're buying these parking spaces, and I can point right out back to the parking space that I bought that kind of started this conversation for me, that didn't come with my property when I bought my property in foreclosure. We looked at all the different things going on in the neighborhood when I bought my parking space. And what was shocking to me was a kind of a side market to the Airbnb market. There has suddenly popped up this short-term lease environment for parking spaces. So think of it. You probably use ParkWiz, Park Hero, Spot Hero. We're going to go through some of those vendors that I've been researching in a bit. But those flexibility on lease terms means in a lot of cases, as long as the condo association, we're going to talk a little bit more about some drawbacks and things to watch out for in a bit. But if the condo association that you're buying this parking space as a part of that building, if they're okay with the short-term tenant, and we're going to talk in a second about specifically what language to look for, you can get a lot of times a per hour or per day rate that is much higher than what you get per month for a 12-month traditional parking space lease. So flexibility on lease terms with tenants, that's really big. What are you going to look for with the condo association in that? You're going to check for the specific language as to whether a space can be rented to non-building residents. I did have a situation where we got a great deal for someone on the property or on the parking space. They didn't do 100% what they should have done with the reading on things. And I caught it for them and was like, you can't rent this parking space to anybody outside of this little building. And I'm not sure how many of your neighbors necessarily are going to be needing a parking space. I don't think this is the best deal for you. We killed the deal. So look for that language with the condo association. Your exit realty agent and your attorney will help you with that. In the state of Illinois, we of course have attorney review. There's a high demand for short-term rentals for parking spaces, especially in an area where you've got a athletic field, you've got sporting events, you have theater events, anything business related, something going on in the neighborhood. Sometimes it's even just as easy as there's a lot of shopping around there, and the traditional metered spaces that you get through the city, they're all taken up a lot of times. So there's a big demand for short-term rentals, and then also for medium-term rentals. Maybe you want to do it month to month. You don't trigger Airbnb approval requirements. And that's another reason why we're talking about this specific topic tonight. It's so timely, is we are seeing, at least in the city of Chicago, where a lot of our agents are based. We're a brokerage with offices across Chicagoland. We do business all over Northern Illinois. But in the city of Chicago, in one instance, or in one of several instances, we're hearing this, city of Chicago is not as open to Airbnb applications as they were even a year ago. So this is a way for you to say, I want to, have some movement, have some flexibility in my investment, maybe use this piece of property, this parking space later myself, or, do something different with it. But for the time being, I want to rent it out, and I want to do it short term and get those maximum per day rates. That is not an Airbnb approval requirement. So that is not the same as I'm going to buy a condo and rent it out, which very tough to find a condo building in the city of Chicago that allows rentals, short-term rentals like that. But parking spaces, not the same, doesn't trigger those Airbnb requirements. So check for ease of access when you're investigating these spaces with your exit realty agent, to make sure that if you're going to try to do this daily or short-term rental, hourly rental, not only does the condo association or the building allow it if it's part of a association, but also that there's ease of use in and out. One thing that's not in these slides is a technology tool I'm using with my parking space. It is a garage parking space. It has a new app out called MyQ. Literally, it's MYQ. And MyQ will tell you, hopefully there's no personal information on this tonight, guys, when your garage door is opened or closed. So if you are a owner of a single family home, a multi-unit building, and you have an extra parking space in the garage, get MyQ. I am not a owner investor in that company. There's a few little startups that I'm a part of as an accredited investor. That is not one of them. MyQ, it is a really nice app that you can actually raise and lower the garage door yourself, or you can give a short-term, kind of like those butterfly condo association. If you've seen the butterfly intercoms, those are really neat. Very similar for the garage doors. That's the type of stuff you want to be able to do, or have a key card. But then again, you've got to get the tenant the key card. You got to think about on the way in and out, how do you get people access in and out? And you really don't want to have your phone ringing all day from these hourly renters, right? So think about that on the way in. This is the type of stuff that I can coach you through. And if you're one of our agents, I can help you walk your client through this, because I've been testing this out for 2 years right here in my property. So another thing that's been changing, the current work from home environment. Obviously, if prices are falling somewhere, is demand falling as well? The work from home environment has absolutely changed the value of a parking space. There's still inherent value in a parking space, because there's still, for the time being, for probably my lifespan at least, there will be a need for private transportation in addition to public transportation. But with so many people working from home, a lot of people sold their cars, or they're not using their cars as much. So the inherent need for a parking space as a piece of your property as an owner has diminished a bit in a lot of cases. So it's not to say it's not without value, but there is less demand than before. So we're seeing, and we've been seeing this since the beginning of the pandemic, quite a drop in transactions for parking spaces, and therefore quite a drop in prices for parking spaces. I am a pretty much still one of the top agents in 655 West Irving, which some of you hardcore property investors in the city of Chicago know is called Park Place Tower. I was an owner there for years. I have bought and sold parking spaces for myself and other people in the building for many years. And those parking spaces used to go for $25,000 to $35,000 a piece. I sold one last year on behalf of a seller. They were not particularly delighted with this price, but due to the market, we sold that parking space for $12,500. And it was an indoor parking space. Kind of a brutal cut on the price, right? But every time that there's a bad thing for some people in a transaction or in an environment, there is the opportunity for someone else. There's a silver lining. So prices are going up, it helps the seller. Prices are going down, it helps the buyer. I believe, and why I'm buying parking spaces, why we're doing this through our investment club, and why we're doing this for all of you at home tonight, is that there will always be a need, at least for the foreseeable future, for private parking spaces. It's just going to be more on these hourly, daily, short-term rates more than anything else. So that work from home environment has changed the game in terms of pricing, but it hasn't changed the game in terms of short-term demand. So there's an opportunity for you to buy low, maybe not sell high, but buy low and rent high. And that's where these big returns on investments come from. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about this pro forma in a bit that we've developed. So look for those bargains. We can set you up on a search in your neighborhood for bargains. It is obviously always going to be a case-by-case basis in terms of where is it located, what are the ease of access, what are the rules and regulations, the items we just discussed in these PowerPoints. So let's go to the next slide. Modern apps make this easier. This was a game changer for me, because I am, as an experienced buy and hold investor who made some dumb mistakes, learned from my mistakes. One of the things I did was I would over involve myself in the transaction. And in terms of with a tenant, that means I'm handling the money. I'm coming to picking up my check. That's how old I am, is that I used to go pick up my checks from my tenants. And then they dodged me. And, there was no such thing as Venmo. There was no such thing as Quick Pay. And so we got into these situations where all of a sudden, even if it's an 8 or 9% return on investment, you're going, well, what's the return on my invested time? And that's a lot of the reason why I came to Exit Realty was I love the residual bonus system. I'm trying to make my life easier and the life of my agents and the people around me easier. I want to empower you through real estate. I don't want to burn you out on it. And you can go Google my name and then the words CNBC, The Deed. There was a show called The Deed. I was on it, and it was not for a fun reason. It was for me getting over leveraged, over complicated in my real estate world, and literally nearly took down my entire real estate world because I got too engaged in the transaction and I overcommitted myself. These apps that I found, and some of you already know of these apps, some of these apps are better than others. It depends on your situation. It depends on your location. And quite frankly, it's like I had another one up here that just went under when went bust and got bought out by another one of these. These are in transition constantly. So Spot Hero, Park X, Park X. I'm getting a little friendly with those folks. They seem pretty good. Park Whiz, that's a newer one. They also own Best Parking now. Park Mobile, Parking for Me. You may find some other ones. I have had a good positive response with ParkWiz in terms of their interaction as a seller platform. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. Check all these out for yourself. Spot Hero, that is the best known one. It's a slick app as a consumer. I think at this point, they're doing at least a 6-month minimum, what they want for a committal for the space for you as a landlord or as a parking space landlord. So you are not going to be able to do those hourly rates that some of us are gunning for. So that is a consideration with them. Others are coming and going. Here's what I want you to watch out for best practices. This is what I've lost and found. Here's what I've found out by losing a little money to a few of the bad ones. Number one, you want to make sure that they have payment to your Venmo, ACH, or PayPal. The idea that they can get their money from the consumer, but you have to wait a month to 2 months for your money. Why does that take so long to get to you? That's how magically money disappears. So payment to your Venmo, ACH, or PayPal quickly. That's what I want for you guys. So make sure that any of these above or the ones that you find on your own, that is their deal when they start with you, that's what you're signing on the dotted line with them. Number two, ease of communication with the consumers through the app. You don't want to make this your day job, right? I only have one client that ever ended up being literally a parking magnet in the suburbs, and he did very well with it, but that's what he made his full-time job. There are no real great apartment managers for parking spaces, and you don't want to be that person either. Again, you will end up probably not on a show. You just may end up in misery. We don't want that for you. So easy communication with the consumers through app, if any communication with them. A lot of these apps take care of almost all of it. So if you've got something like the MyQ app, you've got the instructions in there. Think of those of you that have ever used Instacart, how easy it is to get them in the doorway and all that, and how Amazon works now with so many of our different door staff in different buildings and how they get into your garage, including in the MyQ app. Really cool stuff. Ease of communication is key. Lastly, but not least, reporting of income to you. You want to talk like you would before any financial decision to your CPA. Make sure this makes sense for you. I do not ever go into how to depreciate assets and things like that. That is not what a real estate agent should be doing. That's what your CPA should be doing with you. Consult with them before you make any moves. But there are ways to. You have to report this income. It's like any other income out there, any other rental income. So you want to make sure that that's being reported to you properly, so you can turn around and report it to our friends at the IRS properly, right? Okay, so enough scary stuff. Let's talk about items to consider, but even more opportunity. This accidentally came my way in the process of talking to a couple of these vendors. One of them mentioned to me, they said, well, we also work with pools. I'm like, pools of what? Pools of money, pools of talent. They said, no, pools like outdoor pools. I'm like, well, I don't have one. Not doing that good. But a lot of you guys do, especially in the suburbs. I have clients that they have a pool. Now you're like, well, why would I want someone else swimming in my pool? Do you like money? You can swim in a pool of money. I don't say that flippantly because obviously there are things to consider, like your insurance on that. But there are things beyond just parking spaces now being rented out. So let's talk about that for a second. First of all, anything else, what I love about parking spaces that you have to just watch out for in terms of maintenance, make sure that the reserves are good in the building, the condo bylaws we already talked about, the budgets and minutes for that parking garage if it's part of a building. If it is your own home, what I love about my little investor haven out back in my little garage, nobody can tell me what to do with it because I own it. So if you own the whole garage, you can do pretty much what you want with it within your city regulations. So just consider also, if you're doing all that, what about EV? Some of you saw earlier this year, I got my green designation. I was so excited about that. they're talking so much more. And I consult with a couple condo boards and condo board presidents about what they can do in their building to become more green. Electric vehicle charging, electric vehicles are going, they're not going away. Let's put it that way. They're going everywhere. And we want to make sure that if you are thinking about increasing your income, one of the ways from your investment, your parking space, that is an option for you. It is very expensive to put in an EV charging port or station. However, it could also be a huge premium for you. So that's another thing that you can think about long-term, short-term, grab the space, get a cheap space, and then think about what you can do to improve it. Just like anything else, like when we talk to you about house hacking and buying a multi-unit building, I'm always asking people, well, where could we put in a washer dryer? Where can we put in central air? Where can we do to make this better so we get more income, right? Return on investment. We'll be talking about that again a little bit more in a second. If this can be done with parking spaces, like we said, what about pools, rooftops, backyards, storage spaces? I have bought storage spaces. Yes, storage closets, storage rooms. I bought some weird stuff. Sometimes it didn't work out. Sometimes it did. Storage spaces, you want to think about when you drive down the road and you look up in the city of Chicago and the suburbs. A lot of times, what do you see? You see these big old warehouses that are now what? They're storage units. Most of us on this Zoom tonight, at least today, do not have the money to buy a whole storage building. If you do, amazing. I'd love to work with you, and so would your Exit Realty agent. However, in the meantime, there are sometimes storage spaces that come up, bizarre things like that. There are two firms that I found, PeerSpace and knockknock.co, not knockknock.com, but knockknock.co, that they do those types of transactions. They are basically kind of like ParkWiz and those other entities for your weird situations like a pool, a rooftop, etc. My big concern for you, if you're our clients, I'm always trying to help you not make some of the mistakes I have. As I've said, make sure that your insurance knows what you're doing. Do that up front, because any of this stuff, somebody has a little slip and fall, even in your parking space. Let's make sure that you have the proper insurance. I did not bring on an insurance specialist tonight. I have great referrals, as do most of your Exit Realty agents, for those folks. One last thing that's not on these slides, I'm going to make a note to add them, is there's also, you can even rent your car out short term. Now, I feel like at this point, they're literally telling you can rent out your basement for a party. I mean, there's really some creative stuff that have come out from these pandemic situations where people wanted and craved spaces that were short-term use. So there's a company called Turo, Turo, that I have worked with. I actually have clients that they not only have bought Airbnb properties through me, they have bought some nice late model cars and they rent them out with Turo. So it is a short-term life out there. It seems like short-term investing world. And with Airbnb becoming more and more restrictive, let's think outside of the box. And for some of you on here, you don't necessarily today think that it's time to purchase something. What about creating revenue for what you already have in order to save up for a future purchase, or just for your retirement or some other good stuff out there? So think about what you already have and think about what you want to do. And that's that long-term, those vision boards that we do at our office. And we've got that coming up at my house, actually, this place. Next Friday night, we do vision boards. What is your vision board? As a consumer, as our client, think about that. So I'm not done yet. You're stuck with me for a little bit longer. We did say this is going to be about 30 minutes tonight. We're going to run a little bit over on that. I hope you're okay with that. If you're an exit strategy realty agent, you're of course part of our Project X toolkit. Zenlist, our app, as of tonight, does not have a separate function for filtering for parking spaces. But you know me, I'm always pushing people to do something more when I see something that could help our consumers or our agents. So Zenlist is working with their programmers as we speak, and I would like to think that by next week we will have that as a separate filter, so you can filter and search just for parking spaces for purchase. So if you're one of our consumers out there, make sure your exit strategy agent has sent you Zenlist as the app. And as that app always is being refreshed and updated, next week, hopefully we'll have that parking space as its own, not just a filter to see that as part of a property, but that is a property type, because they've already added in commercial, vacant land, investment properties, for me as a result of previous pushes. I'm a pusher. Anyway, so that I wanted to show you real quick. Zenlist, if you don't have the app, it is absolutely amazing. We love it. That's why I buy it for all of our agents. So each one of you can have as our consumers. The other thing I wanted to show you was that there is a pro forma. What is a pro forma? It is basically a calculator that's smarter than you or me, that is out there that can basically help you make some moves in your real estate world and do some math with you. I'm not the best at math, and that is evident anytime that you sit there and ask me to do math. I have a calculator, but I also have an Excel spreadsheet that's a smart spreadsheet. I'm a big person in Google Sheets. So this is a pro forma tool. One of our agents sent a version of this to me, and then I played with it a little bit further. Your agent has a copy of this. And what I did was, this was a live example for a client of mine where we did a 2 parking space purchase in 655 West Irving, aforementioned former residents of yours truly. Still always a big fan of the building. They've got a lot of parking space in there because they have almost 1,000 units in that building, and they do allow people in that building to rent out their parking spaces to non-residents. So it was a great investment example for me, for a client. I've sold a lot of parking space in that building. For those 2 parking spaces combined, that cost was $35,000. So that was $17,500 a piece. I think even today you could do better than that. And then we were assuming that there was a mortgage in the form of either a home equity line of credit, or a credit card that they took something out on. You could play with that interest rate, because I think for a lot of our clients, that may just be a cash purchase, especially if you only bought 1 parking space and maybe the cost was 15. But these numbers here, all of them are basically removable and editable. So if you wanted to say loan to value is 10% because you're only putting down a certain amount, or your return on investment, all of that will be programmable in the spreadsheet. So you can delete and add things in and out. One of the big things you want to figure in, though, is your vacancy factor. You don't want to assume that it's always going to be rented, because I know a certain person on the Zoom that used to always just, everything was going to be rainbows. And guess what? There are times that even a easy to rent out parking space just will sit for a while. I would love to think that, you could do a 10%, a 1 month maximum out of 12. I think a 2% vacancy factor is really aggressive. But you can do that in there. So that is your potential rental income. And then by the way, your agent can figure out with you a real quick market analysis on what's going on in the building or in the neighborhood for rental. This is, by the way, by month. This doesn't do it by day. You could do an analysis based on an averaging for days. I get very nervous on Airbnb type short-term rentals saying anything more than the market rate per month. I think it's great to say, okay, if I put it out for rent and it's getting $185 a month as a average for monthly, anything I get above that is gravy. I'm not going to sit there and say, okay, well, I'm going to put in this number of $250 a month because I think I can do better than the market. You always want to assume please mute yourself. Thank you. That your Airbnb rate or your short-term rental, since it's a parking situation, that's going to be a bonus. That's not going to be a standard. So the reason why I say that is I do have quite a number of Airbnb property investors that when the real estate market, the Airbnb market, the short-term rental market shifted so dramatically, at least temporarily for 3 to 6 months during the beginning of COVID. When they went to lease out their property on a standard 12-month lease, some of my clients said, you know what, this is too much questioning going on. I'm not sure. These restrictions on travel and the demand or lack of demand for that 3 to 6 month period, I'm just going to rent it out on a straight 12-month lease. That's safer to me. Some of them had always put in the wrong numbers in these pro formas. They put in these very inflated, great Airbnb numbers. It's not always a summer market. It's not always a great market for anything. There's always going to be an ebb and flow. Do the average based on the 12-month 1 month at a time lease. Don't try to factor in your additional income that you get on an hourly or monthly or hourly or daily basis, if that makes sense. So you've got your potential income minus your vacancy. That is your effective rental income. And then if you're getting any other fees, which obviously on a rental space, I don't think there's anything else unless you had a giant rental space and maybe there was like a jet ski in the back. We did that for a client once where they're getting $50 a month where the jet ski was, and then somebody else rented it out as a motorcycle spot and he was getting a little extra. And so then there's your gross revenue, your gross operating income, I should say, and then you're going to factor in, you got to watch out, guys, real estate taxes. When was the last time they went down? They didn't. Can't think of the last time they went down. Can you? Maybe you live in a different area than I do. And then you've got some other things in here to look to see. A lot of these won't apply to a parking space, but it's good practice. If you're going to do something as simple as a parking space, to at least have this pro forma, because it will work for pretty much any other property type out there. A lot of the bigger ones, if you've got a lawn to take care of, which that's a nice thing about a parking space, there's no lawn. Licensing and permits, there really shouldn't be with a parking space. But there's a big one here. Line 21, association dues. You've got to factor in association dues, and they're kind of like taxes. They're probably not going to go down, right? You want to always make sure you budget for that. And then you're going to look at your debt service. If there is any, again, on parking spaces, there may be none. Then you're going to look at your cash flow. I don't touch the depreciation line. I think I said that to you guys before. That is my client CPA told them to put that in there. I'm not going to touch that. And then that would be your taxable net income or loss. Now you look at that number and you're like, that's all I get. Yeah, but you paid, $12,000 for it. So it's not a super sexy per month number. You're not going to retire tomorrow on $178 a month, right? But what you will do is you will create long-term wealth, because you can buy several of these. This is not the only thing I want you to do, but I want you to think about, maybe you do one, see how it works out. Maybe you buy a couple in the same building. Maybe you buy 2 or 3 from the same owner. I was just in a beautiful new $2 million listing in the River North neighborhood, one of our longtime agents, Andy Orgazali, and the property comes with 4 parking spaces. Not sure if the buyer is going to need all 4 of them. That's the type of thing sometimes you see where a seller will be like, hey, I got rid of one of the parking spaces. I did not get rid of the other one. I want to dump it. That's the type of opportunity where you could shave money off this cost of acquisition, what they're calling building cost. That means property cost. I could probably change that line for you, or you could change it on your own because these are editable. And then what you want to do is figure out if you can get that cost of acquisition down, you can make your obviously a higher monthly income. Sorry, I've got my Alexa talking to me in the background. All these nice automations I teach you about, and then one's talking during our time together tonight. There are some definitions down here. Return on investment's the big one. Net operating income is the other big one. Cap rate is obviously, it can go plus or minus based on where you're at in terms of area. We hear a lot in the city of Chicago, 4, 5, 6% cap rate. The higher the cap rate, the better the return. However, a lot of times that means also there's more risk. So that would be something like if you are going to buy something and you're going to put up this, say, oh, well, I'm going to get this amount a month in hourly rent. That would be the type of situation where, wow, that cap rate looks amazing. Well, why is that? That's because there's more risk to a short-term rental. That's why I really like to go with that monthly method. I've been told by some people that, my numbers don't make it very sexy. Guess what? That not sexy is sometimes the way that you stay profitable. I'd rather be conservative with you, or rather have you be conservative with your numbers, and rather than have you end up on the deed Chicago if it comes back for another season, because those shows are, reality TV is one thing, real life and what you put on your family's table is another thing. And I want to make sure that you guys have all the assets you need in place to make some great real estate investments. I would love to see you, if you are on here later or on YouTube later and you're talking to your exit realty agent, get set up on a search, get on Zenlist and watch these prices, because my prediction is this fall and winter, It's going to be an interesting time in the real estate market. It's going to be an interesting time for parking spaces because I'm not seeing that move back to go back to work, drive your car there. I'm not seeing that like we thought we were going to see this year as the end of the summer hit. And I'm like, well, now it's going to get cold out. I thought I was supposed to go back to work in their office. Work from home is here to stay, which means these price reductions may be coming into play for you. Appreciate everyone being here tonight so much. If you have any further questions for your Exit Realty agent, reach out to them directly. If you have any questions as far as to the parking space, overall environment, etc., if you want to kind of pick my brain, talk to your Exit Realty agent. We can get you, me and them together on a Zoom. If you ever wanted to go bigger, not go home, but go bigger, you could look into buying a mixed-use building or a parking garage as a structure. There are some commercial buildings that are smaller that still are, within, I think, most of our budgets that have some parking spaces included in that. Doesn't mean you have to just buy the parking. You could be a great candidate if you're thinking that this is interesting to you to buy a mixed-use building that has parking as part of it. So we do residential, we do commercial, we do investment. So don't think that just because your agent, and you have, talked a lot about houses, that's the only thing that we sell. We are all over the map in terms of locations, but we're also all over the spectrum in terms of our portfolio and what we can get you into property-wise. And if you would like to find out more about anything that we talked about tonight, follow up with you guys, send a message to your agent, or also what you can do, you can comment on YouTube if you see this later and you've got questions. And if you don't have an Exit Realty agent yet, man, we got a bunch of amazing folks out there that would love to help you. You can always reach out to me if you don't have an agent and I will get you connected with one. But my guess is a lot of you are going to be finding us or already watching based on a referral from our agent to come check us out. So we appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. One more programming note. We have a 1031 exchange seminar in October. I'm really excited about this. I have to look at the date. I have to cheat because we do not have the Eventbrite set up for it yet because we just finalized this date for you. But we are very excited about it. And it is going to be on, as I say that, it's going to be on October 19th. We already have a Investors Club meeting during the day for our agents. This will be yet another evening meeting. It's going to most likely start again at 6 p.m. We are trying to set up where it will be a combination hybrid Zoom and a in-person. So if you guys are starved for a little visit in person with us, we're going to try to get you set up in person as well, which means if we're doing a happy hour type situation at 6 p.m., we'll most likely have our actual online content start at 6:30, but we'll have all that stuff out. And really appreciate you guys again being here tonight. Thanks so much. Have a great one.